看看里面有什么吧。
Disco langa tanda di YouTube kang la connect che dewa.
嗯，
Mm, mi nga thamba du admit.
你那个没啥。
Soon YouTube. Oh las. Dev share che gore bela.
我写题呢，这讲都是你的，绿松呢。
Share che tang kan se che bana ta. Rupun kirang ye go host che go di share che thobi re.
这些的常常做么子东西的系列。
Dini go so window documents. How was on yearbook. Share. 그래, 내가 좀 봐주도 안 돼.
也在大部分系统的。
Disco ngi ko di tupun kiran di che yo mare.
啊，
Ko host che yo mare. Ngi che ko adanda.
那
La
位
che yo la.
在什么多，
Tugu minde.
系统学什么的这些，这大层让这的。系什么多。
Ye Lin che ko. Lin, I'm going to make you co-host. Could you please share the prayer book? I could not figure it out here.
Okay, let me go get it.
Yeah, now you're co-host.
Okay.
当中在哪行啊？那就这些点点子。
Can you see it?
Yes, you can see it now. Thank you.
Good.
到了当摩的级别这诺贝尔级别给德国当他们期前辈或者就把七八他们期节所谓级别嘛那个当年别身边他们期的我当天东儿当时有的那那没把了羊头把了左边像学人不切头把了下到了当摩的级别这诺贝尔级别给。他说我当他们去前边，我的有把的去把他们去解锁去边嘛，能看当年别身前他们去的我当电动啊了，当车牛的那没把了杨桃把了左边像学人不去拖把了车，要用力些。
O Mother Sentient Beings, limitless as space, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and omniscience, may they experience happiness, be free from suffering, and swiftly may they attain precious, unsurpassed, perfectly complete enlightenment.
Chi tu sam ma ji ji war tu nu nga yi song ge wa la gor ma xie war tu nu nga yi song ge wa la gor tu te ren ne song de nyun ma sang tai zam je war tu nu nga yi song ge wa la gor.
For that purpose, until I attain Buddhahood, I will apply my body, speech, and mind to virtue. Until death, I will apply my body, speech, and mind to virtue. From today until this time tomorrow, I will apply my body, speech, and mind to virtue.
Ja, okay. Da sind ich gesagt. 这东西呢，也吃不到最起码哎，这呀，就是下去了。真的，咱这的，哎呀，都是想在路那个他们那那去这边包括公墓是吧？结完这个就感觉那么弄了，做完的自然就包括就那么的强学生的，完了这些了做完的大家对那强学嘛都或者就把人家送进你们对兄弟强学生这些东西把这小鸡巴跟这样。那么弄的米确实别让弄出去啥当咱们这用的啥不呢都是坚强的，光胖牛头说。真的，他这的是的吧？基本上别打就去一次这件事了吧？基本上别打就去一次这件事了吧？
是。
基本上别打就去一次，他长多这里头长多的，俺家情况基本上别打是。那么看些长多情况了，他这长多是那张里边呀，有叫这长多。真的长多是连这说说嘛的，说闲了嘛的，说这咱们这有的吧？你忙说后别介有的，真的古上来没形容那别介有啥我的。吃完你这学嘛的意思，真的吃完你这学嘛的意思的，你妈在他吃完这题，在哪学的意思？吃完这东北装不起来，要嘛是那是给下是可以嘛？然后，下次这里个个主题讲的，这里吃也不啥说啊，但这里就不去这个主题看的这那里，当年这那这个东北有嘛的做到啊？
Just
go up.
Okay, Tabacheti ko Shambati Domba Apoyo Samares.
我不然你这处有了哇，他们吃饭挺这处我就，对你妈这吃饭去吃饭去，东北要不有什么的这可我啥了对。有些下说对，真的在小给人，在可能个主题讲，真的吃要不说是几波钱进是哪回事？咱吃要不就说这吃几波钱通给是哪回事？这看着这这里头吃饭去，今年年度这的其实吃饭在东北要不嘛都是，这是哪回事？我在这长多是个老地面，长多是。这里在原来这个是切的生，他吃也不说这地方切在可东北在东北西那米那，他可能东北学来学的那这长多是口气不这里吃也不说在刚刚去这里去都有嘛吧可，然后这地方我那现在在这吃也不说这年纪有了吧，可地方千年没有是吧嘛的，但是长多是这里，在俺家是那俺家是在上班什么通讯期。我这让修你怎么头发上把光把长嘛，他让修这有咱们的上面有的他，看些其他有嘛的，说让就些修这多，看没看这这里有的可能，那让些咱们上面就有的，陆中其他没拿，看些陆中有陆中有的陆中有把那些俺家有的那他在这收，然后基本上陆中就不嘛的。来收，然后那说长嘛，我家那边去收这个我他们怎么样我，但是你咱们这个我家是有的，他先把通讯器，我通讯器，但这老板面片头好像有收到了，老板面片头要买的，可是是呢，然后去被查的陆中的其他银行的收银上的其他些的嘛的，没先把这拉掐着个，这掐手里的说是把嘛起凶，长到穷这个，但是你去的是牛毛子做要不嘛的是啊，这个呢。个现在不送给牛毛的都是长多的送给的，是不行，送多啊，咱们都送给的。
So
俺家的空了，去没家，有天去没家，是俺家的空，有天去家嘛的，是俺家多这个呢，有天去家嘛的，送多啊。
Yeah, so we come to the next set of teachings, and that is called the 11 signs of a holy being. And the first one is it is a sign of a holy being to be less envious and conceited. So, having little jealousy and pride is a sign of a holy being. So, first of all, jealousy or envy. So, jealousy manifests in many different ways. Some people feel unhappy when others are doing well, and they're happy when others are suffering. Or also jealousy comes just out of competitiveness, out of rivalry. For example, there's a story about two monks from The Words of My Perfect Teacher. So there was this one monk who had kind of a rivalry with another monk, and so he's yeah. So yeah, to begin with, they had a rivalry with each other. So they were competitive with each other. And so they were always comparing each other to each other, and so then one time one of the monks, he's heard that the other monk doesn't have good vows, and so then he kind of passed that information on to his Kurangi Loma Lapsama. Like so basically he was telling one of his kind of like inferiors, as in like he's one of his students. He told them that he's heard that this monk that he was competitive with doesn't have doesn't have good vows. So then because he told that to Dini chat mi ko la song song. Oh, yeah. Really, talking with yeah. So basically, really. So the bad thing here is that he was so happy about that he was able to pass on the information. So he said that, oh, that's I'm gonna have a good day today because now I know that this monk is not a good person. I was able to announce that to somebody else. He said I'm having a happy day. And so then actually when we compare that, when we think about that, actually, of course, the one monk who might not have perfect vows has some fault in there, but then the jealous monk is actually is even more at fault than the one with flawed vows. So that's because jealousy is much more detrimental. So jealousy is really like one of the worst afflictive emotions. So that's jealousy. And then the other one here is conceited or pride, being prideful. And so that is when we think we are better than others, then thinking that we are better than others, we look down on others. For example, we think that we are superior to others in terms of our learning, our reflection, our practice, our meditation. We are better in our practice, and so there's also different kinds of people. Pride manifests in different ways. So some people actually do not have a lot of learning, and they're not actually like that good in what they do, but they think they're still better than others. And then there's others who are actually well versed and know things, but then they think they're superior to anybody else. But not just learning, but it manifests in other ways. For example, in social status or certain physical attributes like having good looks, or being young and so forth. So it manifests for many different reasons. And this pride only corrupts, and it never brings any good benefit. Even if you actually have a good learning, for example, there's no need to speak about that to others, because then also that creates unhappiness around yourself, and it's also possible that others will catch up and get better, and then you're unhappy again. So this is not a good state of mind to have. And Gautam Rinpoche actually often says that the worst of afflictive emotions is jealousy. So both jealousy and pride are very harmful afflictive emotions. And pride also, the fault in pride is that if one is very prideful, then one cannot absorb attain any great qualities. So
真的，他倡导的时候在穷，真的倡导没那倡导没节省了，其实已经别想了，先把这穷节省了，其实已经说是把几毛用，说来几毛用过来，想了那谁嘛，那这是没有嘛，那他俺家人那在哪里的，俺家嘛就说没啥心都已那让嘛，俺们这怎么用嘛，但俺家心里就让空在来，我怎么这么着用给了我。我这人对他基本这倡导俺家穷嘛，他基本钱特别大，原因是吧？
So if you instead of being jealous at others, if you rejoice in other people's happiness, then you yourself will also be much happier. You will feel much better if you find joy, if you are happy when others are happy. And the same is with pride. Because if you're very prideful and arrogant, then the moment somebody better comes along, then all kinds of negative feelings arise. So a sign of a holy person is having little jealousy and pride. So
真的，大清就西想这事，你把这多把相信，我不眼我咱们去学习吧，准备他妈啥事啊？多把都是看着呀，去了嘛的，他个这有那你给我说的忙不，他就我说他弄这忙事，可他说，我这看着呀，去了嘛的。俺忙我说好别解有的，没在大过去苦个有的是大过去苦个有了，那么这大解有啥了？他的苦哪儿是？其他大解有没偏错嘛多是？我大姐去那大姐是我大姐，我大姐他妈信息都是，他很流行个人，都把这大姐用了，这用没些朋友嘛，是吧？这我大过去过的，啥这个家信都很多，去那听我的家他妈信都是，我听着那个的，上都把这多着呀嘛，在我们你个人你这样的，他是这样的，他说我做干咩啊嘛，不真听说的，这这样的在他说看来穷啊，听这是西多钱呢，这是感觉穷有的啦。我真确实是，但确实是用的，但确实是的，那别几不要的，说是吧？但哪能确实人，都哪能确，就不能确实的，他们那里别种了，确实特别坚确人，确实特别坚确了我的，是吧？但确实是穷呢，这机会特别大，人是差不多。我真做这个，他这个做这，阳台他别想着摩擦要不这种，那他里啊，这个给的这阳台。做了要是去那个嘛，俺说去真多半的事情呢，真的。我咋听着的，真的，但这说，看了刚才说看了我那这里这确实去说是什么几波去多的，几个是啊，多久呢？
yeah. Then the second verse is, it is a sign of a holy being to have less craving and be content with just the bare necessities. So to have fewer desires and to be content with simple things, that is a sign of a holy person. And so that's because there's really no end to our desires. If you have one thing, you want another, and then another, and you always want more and more. You never reach a point where you feel that you have enough. Now, a story to exemplify that we tell in Tibet. So there's the story of a man with 99 horses, and then another man who only had one horse. So the man with the 99 horses said to the man with one horse, just give me your horse, because then I have 100. And for you, you already almost have no horses anyways. So if you have no horse except for one, instead of one horse, then it really almost makes no difference. What's the difference in having one horse or no horse? It's almost the same, but 99 to 100 seems much better. So he tried to convince him to give him his one horse. And so that was just a story to show that desire has no limit. No matter how much we have, we are never really satisfied. And then as we increase our desire for things, we always run into difficulty, or our problems always increase because we never feel that we have enough. On the other hand, when you have fewer desires and you are content with whatever you have, then your mind is much more happy. It's a much happier mind. Actually, it is said that the best wealth is contentment. Milarepa also said the ornament for a practitioner is contentment. So, for example, if you have a nice car, then very soon you want a better car. There's just no end, no matter what it is. There's no end to wanting more things. So it's better to be content with whatever you do have, because then you will be much more happy. So.
真的，他是中把提倡的，8岁上前进上我家的米吧，能机会特别大，他8岁上只有同大学啥了，只有那么只有呢。但是前进上但是为说修营上吧，他的话，我家起步有吧，现在可以要全米吧，他说修营上目前从往通穷级，我的钱人了的话。真的，我家在机关上的，没办法机会特别大，因为啥机关的多少，但是可能我家自己有噻，机关上多少的。
And then verse number 3, it is a sign of a holy being not to be pompous, haughty, or arrogant. So here pompous and haughty means not to show off anything that's fancy, like wanting, there's this urge of wanting to appear fancy or impressing others, or just being arrogant. And then this is the haughty here, being arrogant. It's very similar to the last verse about being prideful. If you're arrogant, then that makes you lose respect for others because you're thinking, I'm the best. So you're looking down on everyone else. So this verse is quite similar than the verse about pride.
他挺久才喜欢的呗，他追求他我搞没办法就特别大，他追求谁当这里，追求谁那时候3句呢，他求其他面呢，其实工作不拉求法也求运动多，其实真那把东西有吧，这他追求谁个追求谁在，他样可以追求这种，他蛮同这蛮同这些同事的，这是追求那种，那没追那没追谁的，但是说差着不。我这几年就这多，我在这里，但是我前面呢，我是有时呢，这么那觉得吧。我这是追求这小的，马上就我呢，那没说那没就下谁了哇？我这里，但那么叫他去追求呢，我搞没吧？我搞没说的啥个，我搞没吧？现在呢，让去那把东西，让你们呢，这你不吃饭没吧？可以去吧？看这些你推荐说的是。所以他忙不有啥的修运动多起，给我修做运动从大方让几个的你们那些他没几点呢？真的但是这我靠钱强了是吧？我这没把钱呢，真的说看对呢，忙不能那的，没对那的，他没对那的，让几个那的，你们那几个去运动，你们那顶不起，我靠没把你们那顶不起过的，也是可是他才。
Then verse number 4. It is a sign of a holy being to be without hypocrisy and double dealing. So being without hypocrisy or like duplicity is a sign of a holy being. And so hypocrisy means that for example, your mind is not really mixed with the Dharma, but you pretend to others that it is. So you may act very spiritual on the outside, but really inside you're quite ordinary. For example, there's also some people who pretend that they have certain abilities, like they say that I've seen the deity, or I've seen this some kind of spirit, some kind of being, and so on. They claim to have different clairvoyant abilities when that's actually not quite true. That's the hypocrisy. And then this double dealing, duplicity, just means that basically your words and what you actually do doesn't match. So you may appear very very careful about your practice. You put on an outward show of being a practitioner when others are watching, but then when you are alone and no one is watching, then you are not quite like that. So a true practitioner is the same inside and outside. So in front of others and also when they are by themselves. So it's the same behind the curtain as in front. So whether seen or not seen. So the conduct never doesn't change, and this is what we should strive for as practitioners. So.
我真的他这里多，要我讲了大些的呢，写信就全把了，新把了七把了，基本特别大是。我到小瓦克林啊，上面大家当然做小瓦克林，当时得辛苦去了哇。我这些的，这娘们去啊，那他在秋阳他把的嘛的，真的说娘当时他不得，中国嘛有让当时也不去，听咱这个咱们记得基本这个嘛的四大写记呢，写信都是那写印堂特别是。那写印才都写印的，全把都咱娘们去啊，让得开心不恰的个的，写印才那可能是那咱这里，但是娘们去边那个那是娘们去啊，哈过吧，在那写印噻。我这些写印是这人啊，人没人把偏给写印的呢，大些娘们去啊哈。但可是人从那都全别做生意，他们那全把这点那做娘们去特别哦，但是说前些年不得给钱不了，你那种个全场写印对你特别就知道人全把写印的你特别就知道的那种，或者种有吧，我这你前些这种要不行呢，他说娘们做要不到时期娘们去过的是。
And verse number 5, it is a sign of a holy being to examine any course of action precisely and conscientiously, and then carry it out with mindfulness. So whenever we are about to undertake an action, whatever we do, we first must examine that. We must think about whether we should do that well. And so, for example, also when it comes to practicing the Dharma, before we get into it, we have to check whether the practice we are about to engage in is actually authentic Dharma or not. So we should not just blindly believe anything and just do it, but we have to analyze and make sure that this is the right thing to do. And then when we practice it, we should practice it with alertness or with watchfulness and mindfulness. So watchfulness means that you are always aware of what is happening, what is coming along as you're practicing. And then if distraction starts to arise, then you bring your mind back with mindfulness. Jiten Sungam says that mindfulness and alertness or watchfulness are the root of the Buddha Dharma. So therefore, in order to engage in proper practice, we have to use our mindfulness, our alertness, and really examine what we are doing precisely.
哦，真的查出来吧？来军队了，每个星球中嘛，你基本特别大，因是但来军队是要不中国的，中国的他，多少呢？他每个现在每个这个每特别开心不这个的，但我说那就凶呢，在门口口那那上每种多，都然后有那就怕那凶呢，还得那上每种的，每开心不这个，这那一啥来军队是中国的，也中国的啊，是不是钱呢？别想着现在在恐怕叫做有那的人不是做啥，是做人通呢，是马上话去。生前都是在刚被广州马送话去康图所在，可是陈主任通说在上马上自己从那也换得起，我陈主任呢在给我康图做，两个地方康图帮过的三种个，但多的人呢，我陈主任呢在基本特别大的也是，每个就是那就中学不起的那个就是的，我在开始这边每就是啥都每留的开始说马的时候，我在留可能开始口子的时候在那里中国的是。
And then verse number 6, it is a sign of a holy being to be on guard concerning the karmic consequences of actions as carefully as he would protect his own eye. And so one must observe karma, cause and effect, as carefully as we watch the apple of our eye. So the eye is most important, one of the most important parts in our body. For example, when somebody like throws a rock at us, or somebody like hits us with a stick or something, the first thing that we instinctively do when something comes our way is we close our eyes to protect our eyes. And so just like we protect our eyes, we have to protect our actions, our conduct of following karma precisely. And that goes for anything that we do. So be mindful and recognize, for example, even the smallest action that we may engage in unknowingly. For example, we may crush an insect underneath our foot. And when that happens, even if we just transgress the law of karma in the slightest, it's important to confess that and to recognize it. So we must guard our conduct in terms of karma really constantly, like constantly watching protecting our eyes. Of all our different body parts, the eyes are really most precious. So we always guard them. And so similarly, we have to guard karma.
我真的啥情就提下这个出版的别人，东巴上参赛我可没办的就参别打，是他东巴参赛，他东巴现在他做我的说他东巴强说什么东巴，他上岸东巴是强线东巴，他上岸在忙是参赛了，对吧？他基本的东巴是参赛，参赛就知道他话谈不得，但赛，这啥咯？他们先养的参赛是。我真的谈不谈的这个现实，谈赛现在东巴现基本上东真谈的这个啥咯？我真的，我这样对，但我可没把中国，我可没把，但是中国的是，但在说啥的哪里强势那东把都可以进步的，我这样对这，但好在我那在东把中东其实我说对这东把其他马松的呢，真的要我要马的也是，我真的说啥民间研究米是啊，说啥民的研究米是，强势民呢行动米是啊，对面那里边中马的强势民呢行动米是，上岸民呢只有米是。
Sota mena dini nginchu mes dini changchup sena changchup mes.
强先东巴民呢，行动米是吧？
啊，现在没着，
上岸民呢只有米是吧？我认为了正常的，这说他的强先这种东巴这以前讲到了，说他的呢他先老百姓去，现在怕帮过，强先的呢他先边做不出的，我这先老百姓我先边做不出个嘛了吧？我这里真的他的上岸去，但呢真是他光出的，他先边的这么多面他生前他光出个嘛吧？我这对真的我说这是开心不起的，我这对我说东巴中破产。但我可没办法，我都过面了，要不送托，那这容那这就特别大的，也是，都从这头灵堂，要不自己咋先不应把起说，我才今年，但是要不属于一种光头起的，那这就特别大的是。
Then number 7, it is a sign of a holy being to be free from duplicity in keeping vows and samaya commitments. So there's different kinds of vows. We have the pratimoksha vows, the bodhisattva vows, and the vajrayana vows that we call the samayas, and they must be kept without deception. So truly must be truly kept, because these vows are extremely important. And they must be kept sincerely. So meaning that there's no point in just pretending to keep your vows just for others to see it, when actually inside your vows are broken and corrupted. That's not genuine. So a holy being, a true practitioner, keeps their vows truly, and not just for appearance, but sincerely. And so for the different levels of the vows, so the vows of individual liberation, the essence of so without the individual liberation vows, you cannot have renunciation. And without the bodhisattva vow, you cannot accomplish the purpose of others. And without the Vajrayana vows, there will be no result. So this is actually something Milarepa had said. And it makes sense, because if, first of all, you have to in the pratimoksha, the essence of the pratimoksha and to cultivate renunciation is first of all giving up harm, giving up harming others. So if you do not abandon harming others, then you cannot actually accomplish the benefit of others, which is the essence of the Bodhisattva vow. And in order to practice the Vajrayana, if you do not practice it for the sake of others, you cannot truly practice the deity. So they all build on each other, and they are all very important. So it's a sign of a holy being to keep one's vows sincerely. And so that is what we should do. Having vows, we should cherish those vows and regard them as very important and as very precious, and no, you and kind of practice them with proper and truthful conduct. So that is a sign of a holy being.
我就当在东巴时候，开始在什么东巴时候，在这块呢也拍清楚，买云南这些的，什么种多，但今天从他公司拿开始从像搞花一个，哪玩意哪意思？搞花一个哪玩意哪意思呢？那个没给那些那搞学的时候，剩下什么了？给我这人哪学的，这些就搞花一个哪玩意哪意思？我真的秋季节中，如果接了这，秋季节中就长期就两点，如果接了这面这个，东巴是学。 开始在基本嘛来是，那他东巴总朋友，然后那个人就说，咱总那这朋友他妈的用不来是，但是我这那他就送了那种朋友，然后那个人就说，他这是公司策略，我这那他就送过来，我这样要做东巴学的人，基本的出嘛了，人家他妈的要他这个帮下之类，可是呢这个帮过下的，这个基本没给用过了，东莞用过了，东莞多的人要嘛的帮俺说。 这给人这个看了是台湾有个，真的上街出个，他说虽然那台湾多的，东莞蛮多的研究，他就是怕帮过来是拉票人多的呢。我这帮人生产厂嘛的，这有人嘛这样子，可以这那是嘛的是吧？
So regarding the vows, we need to understand that. So some people, the way they think about vows is that so it's only when you take a certain vow that you're no longer allowed to do a certain thing. So then you might as well just not take that vow. But Jigten Sungkyun actually said in the Gongchik that what is prohibited in terms of a vow is primordially or inherently prohibited, and what is permitted, what we should do, is inherently permitted. And so what he means with that is that it is the nature of virtuous things to lead to happiness and the nature of negative things to lead to suffering. So to follow, to practice according to that applies to anyone, and not just a certain select kind of group of people who take a vow, and then the rest who doesn't take the vow is exempt from that. That is not the case. That was his point. It applies to every sentient being. So what he then continued to say is that the Lord of the Dharma, so the Buddha's teachings, is for everyone and not just for a select group of beings who hold the vows. So, but then, of course, for those who do hold the vows, then the benefit of holding that is even greater. But whether or not we keep a vow doesn't really make a difference in terms of the consequence of our actions. They will manifest regardless of whether we keep a vow or not. So that is why whether we have a vow or not, we have to abandon wrongdoing. And that is because from wrongdoing, from non-virtue, comes suffering. Suffering comes from negative actions. That's just the nature of things inherently. And virtue will bring happiness and ultimately enlightenment. That's the nature of it. And all beings want that. Everyone wants to be happy and nobody wants to suffer. And so because it applies to everyone, the meaning, the essential meaning of any vow really also applies to everyone and not just a few.
真的他这里身边年龄差3多米吧，你基本特别大，影响了多。但身边这些年龄现在这边讲让我的是来那个，他不讲让我样子年纪让我琢磨让我的是来让我真的年龄是确实3多现在他这吧这种的杂情报的是，真就这么当呀，这吧那个我喜欢这吧，他的杂情报的，没可以二个这我有多这吧。 真正的送学啥的，我这七九嘛，这身体这牛把行都不行，大过来4多钱，我真就钱呢，要我嘛的是可以的牛来吃的，农村消费起下的，我真就钱呢，要我有嘛的，我今天中国给你嘛中多的搞了，在那有的我给是中国那有的，这可以在培育几百年是的，这消费起薪这要我嘛的是。但你嘛那应该不是叫他人不听把这些吃完这东西，那经常说学也不是起的呢，经常拍嘛是说经常见我听个的是每天经常见起那些那个一点钟我听个的是1点钟我听的那批那么种破着个的是这把没会去呢，我才是中到面这边咱也就是太自己呢，太多马上多。
And then number 8, it is a sign of a holy being not to be biased or fickle towards sentient beings. So it is a sign of a holy being to be without bias or without any partiality toward any sentient being. So there should not be any thoughts like this is my relative or this is my friend. My old friend, that's my new friend. Often people get very excited when they have a new friend and they think, oh, this is the best person ever. And so to be biased in this way and to have this kind of favoritism, that is not a sign of a holy being. That is not good. But a sign of a holy being is to see beings all as equal. So try to make an effort to have no bias toward others and no preferences and see everyone in the same way. For example, Thigden Sumgyen also said in his collected works, there's advice that he gave to his monks. And so some in Tibet, often people have a bias toward people from their same region, the same homeland, the same area when they go somewhere far. And that kind of bias is not good. So he said that even if you are far away, you're practicing, your parents, they always think of you. And if you practice the Dharma well, that also helps them. And then later, when they die, when they think of you and you think of the Lama, then through that kind of triangular connection. What?
对，可能在不是说的呢，不是说全给他跑嘛这些人哈。
Really?
这全是都不是全咱几天中国早，我这几天中国全给的，是特把今天跑嘛这是那些人，帮着的是。
对了，马人呢？
拉松也样。
So when the parents die, then they think of their child, and then you think about Thigden Sumgyen, and so then that basically connects their mind to consciousness to mind, to Thigden Sumgyens, and then they can become liberated after they have died. So their consciousness then is transferred to the Lama, to the Guru. So that happens when so that happens because the guru has no bias, and so the guru naturally benefits beings, and so this is how we should practice as a holy being without any bias.
真的大成就现在就对法做吧，我们出现说吧，基本上基本上没大意思。我之前对法做的，我们可以工作浪多，别想着想，但你嘛，各种图片他说上面一个的吧。 各种图片也各种图上去观众中了，特别确保的没这个按照我们咱这确定一个按照我们这新闻的，看一般我们是都讲的过，说光说三百怎么没干起，我这这些多啊，我这些就嘛是过来年把咋说吧，但来年把咋说的，这人家结果的是过来嘛，他结果也没够错嘛啥的，咱这些多，我咱这些呢咱们人家结果的是那这些呢，啊，光说三年我嘛说的把咋说的，把个的了，这边多有嘛哇。 可能用我们节目马来过的呢，他就查是咱们应该讲呢，可是他里面的强调是咱们就是咱们上面这个，俺这这块做的在工作上的，那要不嘛，这可这块做啥？这里可这块做啥？是说人家可里面的说强的，他说他们今天被恐慌，他们说咱们什么大，他们那这个特别大的意思。
And then verse number 9, it says. It is a sign of a holy being to be forgiving and unaggressive, toward those who accumulate non-virtue. So we should not get angry at the negative actions that others commit, but be patient and forgiving with them. And so some people get very upset, get very angry when they think about what others are doing wrong. For example, in the past in Tibet, there was a lot of destruction. Many holy objects were destroyed. For example, statues were torn down, and holy texts were burned, and stupas were demolished.
Lama这东西说这个Lama这东西说这
啊
一共是啥个Lama这种他出家这东西说提出卡提纲Lama 就说
Lama卡多米的
他出家别东西他这里提出
东西哦
这屋里是呢我这种看一共是啥这个说是呢那不能
Yeah, and then apart from that, there were also many lamas that were being beaten and abused during that time. And so when people hear about about the destruction and the abuse that took place, they get very angry, and they just think that this is so terrible, and they feel a lot of rage and anger when they think about that. And so then, when you then react to that with anger, then you're actually also creating negative karma, and that's not really helping anyone. So how you think about it is that so these beings who were so abusive and destructive, they acted out of ignorance and delusion and afflictive emotions, and may they purify their karma and reach enlightenment. So instead of getting angry with them, which doesn't help anyone, you should think of them with compassion. Because if you get angry and upset about their negative deeds, first of all, nothing is accomplished by that. And also, you are also on top of that accumulating negative karma for yourself. So the right response toward wrongdoing of others is to have compassion.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's in joke. Kare, that nge changka xin na, xin kare, xin wa.
Chupa.
Chupa. Ta jarka xin na, jarka tamchi mala der xin, pamka rang la len ba, jibi tambe da yin, sta te kadam ke, ge xe nge ma lang sang ba zu ti ke nang la, te yorwa lang le lo jung cai ji se ti nang la, te yorwa kare, ke ta jarka xin na chi chong pamka rang kor se yorwa, ke ta jarka xin na chi chong pamka tin zhong zhong li lo ta. 我自己真的当然嘛这菜特别开心不人多你嘛这个当给现在有的时候可是这行我当然这个当给现把这有时的每天我就谁讲你嘛这没这个别讲呢个当给现在别讲落对听到看的这个现在是穷他旁边啊让新做的菜特别扎心不喜欢通的是真当那开始穷的特别穷的是的 랑 상바 송레스 랑 상베 찌기 가담 랑 상베 송레제 이거 랑 상베 장로 다 지추스 쇼고 잠든 로레스 기히 와 체크하라 라라든 로냐세 체크
로냐데
체크 그 체크 공든 하살래 없살래 하살래 비테니 랑 상바타 공바 조스도 세팅게 자 코레스 공바 조스도 랑 상베 den사서 수장지 향용 조제 도대 조스 인도 사다다 제 라레스
상성당
도대 바세
도대 바케
제 코니 다 컨트롤도 제 이제 머티컬라선 다 코니 다서 den사 수행진 참팀도 제 라레스 den사 수행지고 랑 상베 den사 수행지고 참보도 코니 라레스 제 제가 배송도 제 당대 되네 다 배제 멘티 담아 대 요사 말에 코니 다는 라레스 다들 마송나 릭사레스 장레스 샤 뭐네 신트리 말레스 제 클럽도 치랑 로 체게레스 치랑 랑 상베 차지스 미에크 랑 상바 나이 쿠코시고 슬라표레스 제게 제 클럽이 말레스 자 치랑 유한테 체게레스 치랑 랑 상베 차지 예 랑 상바 나이 쿠코시고 코니 티크 만장레스면 동야 만장레 뭐도 코니 어때 하고 말레스 제 드르 현바제를 송레스 다 현바가 나게 해제자 송데 저와 뭐시오 초나로스 你嘛毛在秋去啥的，这些其实是呢，这块拉平都是，他有那没那他不路过都是，有那他在让你嘛在过来拍的在那 display 我在学校有在学的是， 가르지 당연히 책에서 고송스 뭐 책에 지 냠래 요나 미나 요나 가지 시험도 미나 내가 보는 이제 당연히 냠래做生意总的是给些题근데 당아 담아서 나로 진짜 다시로 뭐 그래 스스로 the truth 되는 냠치 가담 냠용 사람 시자 제제 지문도 되지 제가 봐 하나 당시 좀 매반으로 차송스로 초등 세슈인스我在城市가담 계시 받아서城市정도这么来的这种让的他们去现在就先边他们去让的就是让的他们现在就是先边他们去让的就是先边他们去要他让去对吧就讲就是정도我在城市的问啥的他的在这种开进步问啥的 我在城市在现在多对那身边在做康特这么当所说对不开上这么马上话去城市身边的爬平山这么当的那这几个特别大的也种可啥的吧
And verse number 10, it is a sign of a holy being to offer all victorious victories to others and accept all defeats for himself. So to give victory to others and to take all losses upon oneself. Now that's a sign of a holy being. And so there was a story about the first Kadampa master Langri Tangpa. And Langri Tangpa was the one who wrote the 8 verses of training in mindfulness. And so this quote comes from his teaching, and it's well known. And it says that whenever someone harms or belittles me, I will accept defeat and I will give all the victory to others. So that these words were really quite precious. And so then regarding that, then there was another Geshe Cheka, Kadampa Geshe called Geshe Cheka. And so he was at some monastery, and he heard someone reading that verse about taking defeat upon oneself and giving victory to others. So when he heard that, he thought, "Oh, these are really precious words." So he asked the Lama, "Who is that? Who said that?" And then he said that, "Oh, this is a teaching by Langre Tangpa." And then Geshe Cheka thought that, well, I have to find that person. I need to receive his teachings. Where is he? He's in Lhasa. So then he decided to go to Lhasa to meet Langre Tangpa. And then he arrived in Lhasa and he was asking around to find Langre Tangpa, but then learned that Langre Tangpa had already passed away. And so then he asked about his ears, not his regions. And the people said, well, there are 2 people who are kind of candidates to be his regents. They are called Shangshong and Dodeba. But however, nobody became his regent so far because they just couldn't agree. They couldn't agree which one will be the successor of Langri Tangpa. And so then when Geshe Cheka heard that, then he thought that, well, that doesn't sound good. If they already have a disagreement, that they probably don't have the teachings that I'm after. So there's no point in going to see them. So he decided not to go. And so then he went on, and actually what it turned out to be in reality was that the reason why they wouldn't agree on who would be the successor is because one was more humble than the other. So the disagreement was that, so one said that you should be Langri Tangpa's successor because you are elder, you're older, more experienced, and I will respect you and serve you just like Langri Tangpa himself. But then the other one said that no, if I might be older, but you are much more learned. And so you should be the successor of Langri Tangpa, and I will respect you and serve you as though you would be Langri Tangpa. And so they just couldn't agree because one was more humble than the other. So that was the real reason of the disagreement here. And so, but then Geshe Chegawa had already left and went elsewhere. And then he came to another place, another monastery with many monks who gathered there to listen to teachings. And so then in one of the break times, he was doing a circumambulation. and then met with the teacher on the Korah, on the circumambulation. And so he said to him, I've heard about these words, but I haven't heard you say them yet. But do you have those teachings or not? If you don't have them, then I'm going to leave. And so then the Lama replied that verse, that is my very main practice. And so then Geshe Chekawa decided to stay. He said, then in this case, I will stay. But then the Lama said, if you stay, you have to stay for a long time and really practice it. So then he stayed for about 6 to 7 years or so. And probably after just this time, it is said that he completely freed himself of self-grasping because of just practicing that for the time. And also Milarepa had said, whatever whatever happiness you have, it comes from others. It comes through others. Whatever you do for others now, that is your happiness later. So that's your altruism, what you do for others now is the cause for your future happiness. So in brief, the point here is that we have to benefit sentient beings as much as we can and not just think about our own benefits. So somebody who doesn't just think about themselves and thinks about others, in brief, that is a sign of that is a holy person.
等那他先就出来，他上班当交班几天他们对那几位团队打意思，他上就从几天推呢，几天推就忙不起，那你们俩写下的是脑巴有意思。没就他在可能是偏讨厌就完了，别讲的是那在秋阳过时间，他推说我们都弄，咱们还拉不起的吧？他这种对有嘛的事情看起来，我是对那的用嘛的是他别讲的是。当然，开始听到有人要做好了，在没在秋阳过时间、茶话期间呢，旁边人不讲了，咱经常听这么多，我从那来看2年的，咱们那过子，咱不给吧？听到今呢，这几天。他对那这确实头嘛，这上班就办几天嘛，对那这基本特别大意思。我自己么大的拍去，这个嘛根本办几对，这根本别这样子的，下下拍的的，下上面给老么头，下这个很给老么头，上那下这个你头我没是，就是么嘞，下个月他接大了没，下个月他接没是。我那心没想把那个嘛了，那他他那个皮肉噻，那他挺有钱，那他也他根本被拍下来，他其他啥情况来个长马路在他就青岛，他这样他们搞的皮肉嘛吧，哇，他是对的这里，我就当年样的那个当年那在去上着要我这地方，那在上当的他妈的我们家中要我但是他在那个。如果都马说，他经常马都当上这一送到那边的，他就去牙西，他这数的是。就咱们家用个了，下这他对那
唱这种哎，
我打球去啊，这球嘛不吃从，但这个是用老个了，我他真的在他地卡在地那这几天对点了，这蛮对呢，这伢们这没去吃这个嘞，这对那这伢们发现这个嘞，我现在爸妈的本家的，他是说老对那这几发现这个嘛这个嘞，他这老嘛对的说是没对，他就伢们吃的。真的老头然后他不跟他起头个的是我这的，我这他的可是几天相当没头吧的，几天不大，没头吧几天不大意思，很多。你嘛，你是说这个是这些种的话，如果个就我们还有这些种。
룩박하게 다시 정.
너 샤트 들은 삼바지 요르스와. 샤트 제와는 뭐지? 배 삼바 짜지 보는 지리스. 샤다 제지 코는 뱀무시 콘트롤 사본데 봐. 무슨데 투야요 말세고. 샵선다서나 그렇게 오나 갑총다. 신의 고야 자시라 도주셔 마. 最近特很就偏头了，可是他们忙不这样，给下来这些呢，那去偷个嘛了哇。啊，是吧？这给家长他们来，这个成就高兴那这，好像退休前搞来好不似的，也光把做的，股东就说没这去，你别没事，出大的希望都是吧？他们现在就这，从人生的从家间什么的，他们那这穷的是吧？他别的就有的行上就是穷，没什么行上就是穷了是吧？他算不低这个，但是那种这样子个对呀，搞来搞不学，差不多。 好的，这是在一起特别大事，可是他可以要这样给讲的了，你们去的，你们推广这个哇。好的，不嘛，搞成当主动就是嘞。
Mhm. And then verse number 11, it is a sign of a holy being to differ from worldly minded people in all thoughts and deeds. So essentially it's saying that so your actions actually should be at odds with worldly people at times, which is a sign of a holy person. So what that means is, so for example, when someone devotes themselves to practice, then often people say to them, if you don't have time for that, do something else. Or in Tibet, when somebody wants to be a monk, then maybe their parents will try to discourage him because they need him to work on the field and things like that. They need more workers. So they try to find different reasons why that's not a good idea to go into retreat or to become a monk. And they also say that, so you've already done so much practice, you've already done so much good, and so now you need to do these other things which are important. So basically they keep you from practicing if you agree with them, if you go along with their wishes. And so when Milarepa met with Gampopa. So when Gampopa first met with Milarepa, so he offered him some gold and some really fine tea. And then Milarepa said, I have no need for your gold, and so I have nothing. I get nothing to buy for me with that gold. I have no need for your gold. So the gold and this old yogi's mind, they don't agree. And also, I have no need for your tea because I don't even have a teapot to make tea in. So however, of course, if you would like for a normal person, if somebody would tell that to you after you come such a long way and make this really nice gift, then most people will not be very happy about that because they made this effort and they really mean well. But also Milarepa had a point when he said that, and the point was that he is not he's at odds with the worldly ways, and that was his point. Um, so I so yes, your way and my way as an ordinary person do not agree. That was his point. So the thoughts and the actions of a holy being are different from that of an ordinary person. So for ordinary people, so your parents or your friends may tell you that you've already practiced enough and now it's time to do something useful, and they try to put you to work and or just talk to you and waste your time. Now, if you really want to follow the Dharma and you agree with that, you go along with that, then that's an obstacle to your Dharma practice because you are not like it's keeping you from practicing the Dharma. But if you do not go along with that, so you're at odds with them, then your mind actually begins to align with the path of the Dharma, and you're genuinely starting to practice. There's a story I heard about a lama, also somebody, a retreat then from the Drukpa Kagyu monastery in India. That's called Dashichong. There was a retreatant, and His Holiness the Dalai Lama actually he praised this retreatant for being really very precious. So he considered this retreatant very precious. But actually, so in terms of his personality, his temper, he had a really harsh temper. He was really angry a lot of the time, and nobody could really be around him for too long. He would scold his attendant and chase them away, and nobody could stay close to him because he was just too scary of a person, and he just couldn't get along with anyone at all. And so people essentially avoided him. And so at that time when he was alive, so a lot of people tried to stay out of his way. And on the other hand, now when we think about it, maybe that was a good thing for him. Maybe that was the right thing to do because that's how he could actually keep practicing. Because otherwise, if he would have just agreed with everyone and go along with everyone, then he would have just end up wasting a lot of his time talking and entertaining others and so on, and not really practicing. And actually, so later when he passed away and his body was cremated, actually really extraordinary signs appeared, like relics appeared on from his body, and many different other signs appeared, and everyone saw that and was really amazed by what they saw. But while he was alive, that was not evident to others. While he was alive, he couldn't get along with anyone. But maybe that was a sign that he was in fact a holy person. So
야, 다 전에 있었으니 전에 다 서포지 마찬가지야. 내가 다다들 지den송 저리 계신 시야치.
we'll stop here for today and see you next week. And now we dedicate with Jigden Songken's dedication.
야, 저 English 봅시다. English.
Glorious, holy, venerable, precious, kind root in lineage lamas, divine assembly of Yudams and assemblies of Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, heroes and heroines, Yogini assembly of Dakinis dwelling in the 10 directions, please heed me. By the power of this vast root of virtue, may I benefit of all sentient beings through my body, speech, and mind. May the afflictions of desire, hatred, ignorance, pride, and jealousy not arise within my mind. May thoughts of fame, reputation, wealth, honor, and concern for this life not arise for even a moment. May my mind stream be moistened by loving kindness, compassion, and bodhicitta, and through that may I become a spiritual master with good qualities equal to the infinity of space. May I gain the supreme attainment of Mahamudra in this very life. Even at death, may the torment of suffering not arise. May I not die with negative thoughts. May I not die confused by wrong view. May I not experience an untimely death. May I die joyfully and happily in the great luminosity of the mind as such, and in the pervasive clarity of Dharmata. May I in any case gain the supreme attainment of Mahamudra at the time of death or in